Welcome everybody to another episode of Creative Cosplay Corner. I am Cable Rose, and today I want to introduce you to Steffi Monster. Let's see what Steffi has in store for us for her cosplays. Well, now that we know what Steffi brings to the table, let's meet the person behind the cosplays. We've seen what she's got to offer. Now let's see how and why she got there. Steffi, come on the show, introduce yourself, and just kind of give us a little background. How'd you get into cosplay?
So I'm Steffi Monster, and I got into cosplay because I've been a big fan of it since I was about 19, and I'm now 29. And the actual first cosplayer I ever saw was at San Diego Comic-Con, and it was a Poison Ivy steampunk and a Batman steampunk. I was like, oh my god, they're so pretty, they're so cool. And then I followed Jessica Negri since I was 19 as well, and I was like, god, I wish I could do that, that's so cool. And then finally, when I was about 20 to like 22, I started to break into cosplay, and then I started cosplay modeling probably when I was about 24. So it just all led up to it slowly. So
what's your background? Are you DC? Are you Marvel? Are you steampunk? Are you a mermaid? Are you open to anything? How do you choose your characters?
So I grew up with my dad, who's a huge nerd. Like, we grew up on Star Trek, Star Wars. I'm more of a Marvel fan. I love cosplaying DC characters because I like their backstories a lot, but I'm much more of a Marvel fan because growing up I had like a Spider-Man bed set in high school. So like Spider-Man has always been my like main guy to go to, because my first comic book I ever collected was actually SpiderGirl. And I started collecting her when I was about, I want to say like 10 or 12, because Toys R Us was actually giving out comic number 0 of SpiderGirl, and that's how I got it. And then my dad took me to a comic book store, and history from there.
The rest is history. So I like how you said this. Marvel, you like to get into those characters, but you also said that you're DC, and I don't know if it's DC characters or DC villainesses. Which one are we talking about? Like, is it gender bend? Do you crossplay, or what do you do?
I haven't really crossplayed before. I really want to, because I would love to do like, you know, like I did dress up as Robin one year for Halloween, but it was like that shiny Halloween costume. So like, I guess that doesn't really count. But I would like to do like a Robin and stuff like that. And I guess there is a female Robin.
Yep.
Yeah, so I would need to know more of their backstory, because I like to cosplay characters that I actually know. So I kind of have like, if I get stopped, I know how to like, by a little kid, I'm like, oh, I know what this person is. So I kind of.
So you take on the role, you take on the character of who you're cosplaying?
Yeah, only for kids. When I meet adults at conventions, you get me, but children will get the character, and I will, like, if they give me an autograph book, I will sign my name as SuperGirl, SpiderGwen, and draw a little spider or the Superman symbol. Like, I make it like a Disneyland experience where you can get a signature.
I love it. So do me a favor, going to a con, what's it like to put on? You know, what's it like? Because I don't know. I've only been to 2 cons. I went as, and I have to give a shout out again for this episode, Gentlemen of the Force. It's an Instagram page where they wear like 3-piece suits, but a bucket. So like Star Wars characters.
Oh, yeah.
So my son and I went as matching suits and ties with our buckets. And I've only done a few cons, like very small. So what's it like to put on a full regalia, your SuperGirl or your, you know, SpiderGirl or your something? How's it like to go and then be that character while you're walking through a con?
It's actually really fun. Like, getting ready in the morning is just like, you're wearing a wig cap and you're just like all makeup, and it's just like the wig cap. And it reminds me of like, you know, in Mulan, how the lady has like the beard and she's like, Fa Mulan. That is what I look like when I have all my makeup on and a makeup cap. And I think I posted a few like photos in my story of like me with a wig cap and like a crazy face, because it just reminds me of that scene so much. So I feel like I'm crazy, and most of the time like I'm just wearing like I'm like, okay, I can't eat anything that will make me super bloated because I won't be able to fit into this. So I'm wearing like Spanx that go up to here, like the shapewear, and then I'm like walking around like an old lady. And then I finally get in costume, I'm like, oh, I look decent today. So it's just, you're a monster and then you become a beautiful creature later. So
I think it's awesome. And so I'm excited. I was planning this week. My mom and I are, I know I keep saying my mom and I, but I'm here at my mom and dad's house. My mom and I are plotting out my first few cosplays because I want to get a couple kind of going because I know they're each going to be in their own realm, kind of more difficult to put together. So I want to have something I can always work on. But I look forward to that final product of being able to finally, like you said, put it on and show up at a con or show up at an event and be like, yeah, this is worth all the time and the effort and I want to be a beautiful creature too. I want to go from the monster that I am to the beautiful
yeah.
creature. I think that's awesome. So Steph, you know, you've got a couple of different types of characters, and I see you're kind of open to, you like some certain ones, but you're open to what is it about cosplay? I mean, so I understood your nerddom. Is that the word I'm looking for? I understood your background and how you got into it. You said your father and comics and things, but you know, at what point does an adult decide, hey, I'm gonna go put on, you know, cosplay and go do events?
I don't know where that clicked eventually, but I really enjoy like, because I live in a really small town and there's not much for kids to do at all. I have a 7-year-old and there's like nothing fun for kids to do for the most part. And I go do a local thing. It's called Chillin' on Bill. And I go to the car shows and I dress as characters at the car show. I even went to the Pride event here and I was dressed as SpiderGwen for Pride. And little kids absolutely love it. I've done SuperGirl. I did Ariel for their, they had like a beach bash thing, and I was Ariel with the big fin, and like kids' eyes were like ogling out of their head. Even like the old guys with the cars were like, oh, this is so cool, you know? So it's kind of a fun way to like get the community involved. And I've also done a few art classes downtown where I pose as Spider-Gwen and they can draw me. And
Oh
like
yeah.
that's kind of cool too to do that. So it's kind of a way to give back to the community. And I've also done a few birthday parties, and I've done like Tinkerbell. There was a little girl actually in town that was bit by a rattlesnake, and I went and saw her as Elsa, and I printed up a certificate and made her like an honorary princess of Arendelle, and I gave her a tiara, and it was just like, it's like a fun way to give back to kids, especially when there's not much to do out here and there's nothing for kids to do. So it's kind of a fun way to give back to the community.
So Steffi, I appreciate that because 2020 obviously has been a hell of a year. It's been everything's shut down and everything's kind of crazy. We're not supposed to be out in large, you know, Comic-Cons and stuff like that. So the fact that you can still give back and do some of those small things, whether it's an individual, whether it's some of, and I know your car shows maybe weren't this year. I know that was probably
yeah.
previously, but being able to go do those smaller things just is awesome to be a part of. Well, I like it, the give back, right? I do. I think that's a really good way of explaining why we do what we do. Because you're right, the 43-year-old adult male that's going to put on a costume and go down to a local event 20 years ago may not have been the, you know, coolest thing to have at your event.
Arrested on site as a weirdo. So, yeah.
So, but today is actually like, you know, welcomed, and that's really awesome in this community to be welcomed like that. So I've got 2 questions. This is your platform. These are your audiences. They're not mine. They're coming to see you. What do you want to tell the cosplay community?
If you're starting out as a cosplayer, start slow, don't be crazy, and don't expect to have 1 billion followers within a week. It doesn't happen that way. I've been working on this for 5 years, maybe 6 years. I don't know. I've lost count. So just make sure you have a good name, a good brand, and, you know, always be kind, because there are a lot of trolls on the internet and it's really hard to deal with the bullying, but just ignore it, block it, and just keep doing what you're doing and make sure it makes you happy, because if it doesn't make you happy, don't do it.
I think that's perfectly said. Do it your way. Don't let anybody else, you know, affect your energy, your vibes. Them haters are going to hate, right? We get that. And yes, just do it your way. I think that's a really good point, and just have fun with it. So I've got a question for you, because I always like this one. What's your favorite cosplay moment? What's it look like?
Okay, I was at San Diego Comic-Con and I was dressed as Supergirl, and a little girl just booked it towards me, gave me a hug, and she showed me her SuperGirl light up shoes. She showed me her SuperGirl dress, and she was like so pumped. She totally ditched her mom and dad to come say hi to me because I look like SuperGirl, and I was in the CW SuperGirl outfit.
Okay.
And she was just so excited, and I was like, oh my goodness, oh my Krypton. I was like, your shoes light up, what kind of crystals are those? And I was like totally in character, freaking out. You know, she got a picture with me. She was so excited. And like, that's a really good moment. And then I had another one where a little girl came and like tackle hugged me. So of course, me being like, at the time I was like 110 pounds, and this girl was like half my size. So of course I pick her up, spin her around. And even though she almost knocked me over, I was like, I can't fall over, I'm SuperGirl. So I picked her up, spun her around, and her grandma was like apologizing. And I was on the phone, and I hung up my phone, and I was just talking to her about SuperGirl and how awesome it was that she's a fan, and she was really excited. So those are the moments that I live for, is like the kids being hyped up for me.
So I love the fact that we as adults, we have connections, and we have maybe a photographer. I don't have a professional photographer, but one day I hope to connect with somebody that when we go do these costumes and cosplays, and we go to these, what do they call, like on site? What do they call that when you go to a location shoot, right? Go to a location shoot, get your photographer and do all those things. I think there's two parts to that. One, it makes me feel good if I get to go be a part of that and do the cosplaying and that. Two, that's a moment that lasts forever digitally. I mean, I can go Google that and pull it up and look at it. But you're right. It's a timeless moment when somebody runs up and, like you said, tackle hugs or comes over to show you their shoes, and you go right into that. That's a huge impact you could have had on those two individuals' lives from just a 2-minute interaction that it could have been. I think that's awesome for being a part of what we do as cosplayers. I think that's really, really kick-ass.
Yeah, it is really cool.
So Steffi, you know, bringing you on, one, I want to thank you twice for being here. I'll keep this in, but last week I forgot to record our conversation, and now we're back again. So I do appreciate you offering to come up. I didn't even want to ask you, be like, oh, you want to come back? And then you felt obligated. So I'm glad you offered that up. So I appreciate that. But having you on the show and always getting to hear your stories and always getting to hear your connections, I really, truly appreciate how you do your craft, whether it's the actual cosplay or that connection you have with your audience. I think that's pretty badass.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. And thanks for having me on again.
But
I'm glad it's actually recording this time and it worked. And if you ever need to do another YouTube video, just feel free to ask. I'm more than happy to.
Well, now that you say that, I'm not going to put you on the spot, but I do have an idea for a follow-up, maybe in 8-10 months, to come back when we finally hit con season again next year, and maybe go back into a follow-up with conversations with our guests. So I might have you back on very recently in the next year or so, and have you back on to talk about maybe your next events.
All right, that would be very cool. I would love to do it.
Very good. Everybody, this has been an episode of the Cosplay Corner. Whoop. Creative Cosplay Corner. I got to make sure I get that branding in there. It's just what you told me, Steffi. But it's been fun. I'm glad to have Steffi Monster back. You guys, please, we're going to tag her throughout this. Go to the link in the description for the YouTube page and make sure you get out and see what it is that she does on her page. It's a really fun page. I've been with her for almost this entire 5 years. She was one of the first persons I ever found on Instagram when I didn't even know what Instagram was. And her and I have been following each other for almost the entire 5 years. So it's been really fun to see her in her process and finally get down and meet the person behind the mask. So good times. Anything else? I don't know. I'm just
no. That's all. Well, bye guys.
But listen, she's been great. I've had a great time. To everybody who's been here, thank you for being here, and we'll catch you guys on the flip side.